here is your book talk for this month. Ready for some great new books to think about and add to your list. The first book I'm sharing today is called Other Words from Home by Jasmine Warga. And this is in realistic fiction. It's a book that is a novel in verse. So these books are the kind, and we have lots of them in the library, by the way, but written as poetry type style. Not the rhyming kind of poetry, but definitely those that have lots of white space on the pages. If you enjoy those stories that read a little bit quicker, but are kind of written with that poetic style, Jasmine Warga has written this book in that particular type. And you can see an example of that on the screen here, sort of the way that is written. One of the things that she has written in the story and the way that it's actually written out on the page there on the right-hand side of the screen. In this story, we've got Jude, who never thought that she would have to leave behind in Syria her older brother and her dad. Jude has lived in Syria her whole life, and things in her hometown have become pretty scary. And as a result, both Jude and her mom are sent to live in Cincinnati with relatives. They're sent to live there while things are getting sorted out. Her brother and her dad have to stay behind, and you find out why that is. And Jude and her mom move over to the United States and are going to live there kind of as things get kind of, figured out with the whole family. And at first, for Jude, things really are not what she expected. She has seen lots of movies, set in America. She expected to really enjoy being in America and enjoy American life, but things are really loud and fast, and everything coming at her is just too much. At least that's how it feels at first, but there are also some very unexpected surprises, some things that she enjoys and loves too. Meets some new friends, is connecting with this family that she's living with in Ohio, and a school musical that Jude decides she's going to try out for. Lots of things to love about this book. Certainly, if you can relate to Jude's sense of place and trying to figure out, can I fit in to a new place, somewhere that I am not used to, this would be a great book for you to check out. The book is called Other Words from Home. It's by Jasmine Warga, and it is in our realistic fiction section. Be sure if this is one that you want to check out right away, put the book on hold, as it might be one that gets checked out, pretty quickly. And as always, we can request other copies from other buildings if it is one that is not available for you. Slider by Pete Houtman is in our humor section, and this is such a fun read by a local Minnesota author about a kid who can eat an entire 16-inch pepperoni pizza in 4 minutes and 36 seconds. It's a pretty great record, but it is going to be one he has to beat in order to compete in the Super Piggerino Bowl. It's an eating competition, and David is going to have to win this thing because he spent $2,000 on his mom's credit card without telling her. Holy cow. He's got to try and pay off that money before she finds out and gets that bill. And in order to do so, he's going to win, he hopes, this food eating competition, this pizza competition, and win the grand prize in order to pay off the money on his mom's credit card. Can he do it? You have to read this book to find out. There's going to be a lot of practicing to try to see if he can win this competition. And in order to practice for a food eating competition, you can imagine the number of things he has to try to do, the things he has to try to eat, the number of successes and fails that he has. What happens when it doesn't work so well for you as you are trying to eat tons of food? I'll let you use your imagination there. There's a lot of other things going on in the story, though, too. Training to be a competitive eater is part of it. David also has to keep an eye on his little brother, who, they're trying to figure out what exactly is going on with his little brother and some behaviors going on at school. And there's some kind of weird stuff happening with David's two best friends as well, and he's trying to sort that out. Slider by Pete Houtman. It's very funny. It's got lots of heart to it as well. Check this one out in humor by Houtman. Planet Middle School by Nikki Grimes is a nice, quick read, and as it says there on the screen, it's also written as a novel in verse. So if you're looking at author's style of writing, Nikki Grimes is an author who chooses to write in that poetic style. This is one of those books that when most students are done reading it, they come to me and ask for other books like it. And so you're going to probably, if you read this one, also want to read other books by the same author or look for other books in verse. So again, I'll just remind you, we do have other books that are in this style, lots of them, hundreds of them, in our library collection. And so we can help you find those as well. This one is about 12-year-old Jolyn. And Jolyn has felt like life has been just great for her. She's been in her baggy sweatpants, had her ponytail up, has played basketball with her friends and her best guy friend, Jake. Things have been just fine. Life's been good. But all of a sudden, now that she is in middle school, it feels like all the rules have changed. Guys and girls aren't really supposed to be friends the way that she and Jake have been. People are asking questions about, are you and Jake a couple? Are you going to start dating? And what are they even talking about? She's never been interested in him like that, and he's not interested in her like that, and gross. But wait a second. Now her best friend, her best girlfriend, is flirting with Jake. I don't know. How does she feel about that? Not great either. Well, her clothes also seem all wrong. Everything that she's putting on, she doesn't love. Should she wear makeup? Should she fix her hair? I don't know. Maybe she likes to just wear her sweatpants and put her hair in a ponytail and head off to school. And why isn't that okay anymore? There's all these questions running through her mind. If you are someone who has ever questioned something along those lines and felt that shift from elementary school to middle school and feeling like the rules have suddenly changed, Planet Middle School is your book. This is for every middle school reader, I promise. Planet Middle School, Nikki Grimes. Check this one out in realistic fiction. Trapped Between the Lash and the Gun by Arvella Whitmore is a book in historical fiction that I read, it's been at least 15 years since I finished this book, and I still would say it is one of my favorite historical fiction reads. Jordan, at the beginning of this book, is living in Chicago and is trying to make the decision about joining a gang. His older brother is part of a gang. He is looking to join that same gang, and just as he's about to start his future with the Cobras, he gets called back to the past, like way, way back to the 19th century, where he meets some of his ancestors and gets a picture of what life was like for them as slaves. This story takes you back and forth between Jordan's life in the present day in Chicago, trying to determine whether or not joining the gang is the right choice for him, and being back in the 19th century with his ancestors and experiencing the life of slavery. And if you've ever felt trapped yourself by difficult choices, if you feel like you've fallen on hard times, this book is going to absolutely be a memorable read for you. I can just guarantee you're going to love it. Trapped Between the Lash and the Gun by Whitmore. Take a look in historical fiction. For a much lighter read, The Puzzling World of Winston Breen by Eric Berlin in mystery is so much fun for those that love puzzles. If you are someone who enjoys a good logic puzzle, a good crossword, if you like trying to figure out a mystery of some kind, this is a book full of puzzles, not only for the characters, but also for you as the reader. Winston, our main character, says that the only thing better than discovering a puzzle is actually stumping someone else with that puzzle. His sister discovers this crazy puzzle. It's like a bunch of strips of wood with words and letters on them, and Winston, who really thinks of himself as the puzzle master, also can't figure out this one. And it sets him and his family off on this wild goose chase, a scavenger hunt really, that is going to lead them to what they believe is going to be probably thousands of dollars. They just know it's this huge prize. Well, this book, as they are trying to solve these puzzles, you get to solve some of the puzzles along with them. I love the way Eric Berlin has chosen to write this book. It's not just the characters trying to put them together. You get a few pages as well of trying to solve the puzzles before the characters figure them out. The answers to the puzzles are in the back of the book. So if you want to try to look at those answers before the characters get there, you can. But I really enjoyed taking a look to see, could I figure them out before the characters got there? Take a look in Mystery by Berlin and see if you can solve the puzzles before they do. A couple more to share. Savvy, which is book number 1 in a series by Ingrid Law in fantasy, imagines a family that has supernatural powers. Although, let me stop there. They don't have these powers at birth. They have them when they turn 13 years old. Our main character, whose name is Mibs, she has a different name, I believe, and Mibs is her nickname. Mibs doesn't have hers yet because she is just on the brink of turning 13. But her grandpa has a power to move mountains. Her older brothers can create hurricanes and create electricity. Well, Mibs is just about to turn 13. She's a few days away from doing so. And just about 2 days before her birthday, the family gets scary news that her papa has been in a terrible accident. Mibs decides she's going to get herself to that hospital as quickly as possible, and she is absolutely determined and is certain whatever her superpower is going to be, the supernatural power, she's positive it's going to be something that is going to save her dad's life. She doesn't know what that power is. She just is certain that if she can get to her dad in time, whatever that power will be, it will save her dad. And that's sort of the start to this series. Savvy is book number 1 by Ingrid Law. I hope you enjoy it. Alone by Megan Freeman in Adventure is a great book to read if you are someone who loved Hatchet by Gary Paulson. If you know that classic story, it's the story of a young boy who ends up having to land an airplane because a pilot ends up with a heart attack, and he has to survive out in the wilderness on his own. This story is not too dissimilar in that this young girl wakes up after a sleepover one night to find that her entire town, not even just the town, the whole region has evacuated overnight. There had been some hints as to why this was going to happen, but she has no real idea why everybody has left, and doesn't really know either if or when they'll ever come back. At the beginning, there's still electricity, there's some running water, but as days turn into weeks and weeks turn into months, things become far more desperate. You can see that 12-year-old Madeline is there with her only companion, her dog, and in the Colorado winter that is soon approaching, things are going to become far more crucial. Alone by Megan Freeman, written as a novel in verse, is going to take you through what would it be like to have to survive, collecting food and water, learning how to light a fire in a wood stove. What do you do if loneliness becomes an incredibly great enemy? This is a new book by a relatively new author, and I hope that you'll take a look and put it on hold if it happens to be checked out. The last one I wanted to share with you has been around for a while, but definitely one worth taking a look at, an award winner by Kelly Barnhill. It is in fantasy, and it's called The Girl Who Drank the Moon. What if, and if you could imagine this, holy cow, every year in your area, people left a baby as an offering to a witch who lived in the forest. The reason they did this is so that the witch wouldn't terrorize your town. That is how this story begins. Let's take a look at a trailer. We're going to try that one more time. I've got my sound connected in the wrong spot here. Hopefully I can get that disconnected. Anyway, you know what? I'll just tell you about the book since I can't get my trailer to work. So as I was saying, what if a witch were trying to live in the forest and terrorize your town? In this forest, however, luckily the witch in this forest is kind. She's gentle. She shares her home with a wise swamp monster and a perfectly tiny dragon. The witch rescues the abandoned children and delivers them to welcoming families on the other side of the forest, nourishing the babies with starlight on the journey. One year, though, this witch accidentally feeds a baby moonlight instead of starlight, which fills this very ordinary child with extraordinary magic. Our witch decides that she needs to raise this magic girl, who she decides to call Luna, as her own. To keep Luna safe from the witch's power, the witch locks her magic deep inside her, and when Luna approaches her 13th birthday, her magic begins to come out on schedule, but the witch is far away. If this story of Luna, and now this Luna, poor thing, has to protect those who have protected her, sounds like a good one that you'd like to take a look at and find out what happens now that Luna has this magic locked inside of her. Take a look at The Girl Who Drank the Moon. It's by Kelly Barnhill, and you can find out what happens in this story by Barnhill in fantasy. With that, I will just remind you to always feel free to go on to our Destiny Discover catalog. You can, at any time, go onto there and take a look at any of those buttons that will allow you to take a look at the different categories that we have, the different genres. We're changing those banners all the time so that you have the opportunity to see some new books that maybe aren't coming up on the shelves or on displays very often. Please take a look at any of those as well. Look back at other titles that you've written down from previous book talks too, in case some of these happen to be checked out. Certainly come back and take a look at those at a later time. Feel free to ask for recommendations from me too if something here did not sound like one that you wanted to read this time around. And thank you so much for your attention. Happy reading.